Hey guys, what is happening? I apologize for the lack of activity on this channel and on the main channel as of late. I've been sick, as you can probably tell from my voice, and I'll probably be coughing a lot throughout this video, so pardon me for that. I'm still recovering. Also, I've just been really busy. To be honest, ever since I started doing this new content, it's the first time I've ever attempted doing stuff like this. So it's going to be slow at first, but you'll definitely be getting more stuff as I get progressively better and faster at doing it. So apologies for that. But anyway, guys, welcome to the very first episode of AnimetalViking's Albums of the Week. The point of this series is to basically just recommend albums to you guys out there who are perhaps looking for some new music. Um, Also, these albums aren't necessarily all recent. It's a whole mixed bag of stuff, some old stuff, some new stuff, etc., etc. Variety of genres. It will mainly be metal, obviously, but the stuff that isn't metal will be here as well. I am not just recommending one genre only. So if you're an otaku and if you're also a metalhead, then there's probably going to be something on here just for you. So anyway, these are my 10 favorite albums of the week. I highly recommend you check all of these out, and now to go into detail as to why and to what they are. Okay, so the first album you guys should check out is The Unconquerable Dark by the UK, if you want to call them doomcore band, Black Tongue. The reason why I say doomcore is is because this band, uh, they combine doom metal with deathcore. It's very down tempo deathcore. It's They are definitely the heaviest band in terms of production right now. I cannot think of any band, whether they be like the old school death metal bands, any of the current deathcore bands, or any other genre of metal. I cannot think of a band that is heavier than these guys right now. I'm sure they are, but as of right now, in terms of what I've listened to, these are definitely the heaviest guys out there in terms of production. Their music will literally ear rape you if you play it too loud, so don't play them too loud. Think of their sound as this. Think of deathcore meets Sun. And for those of you who know who Sun are a doom metal band. You've probably heard of them thanks to Steve Terryberry's top 10 heaviest bands video that he did. Um, yeah, just think of that. That's what Black Tongue sound like. Sun meets deathcore. That's why I use the term doomcore. Um, so yeah, this album is their first full length album, and it's definitely a lot better than their first LP, EP, whatever it was, whatever you want to label it, Born Hand. I think it was an EP. It only had 6 tracks. Yeah, Born Hand is good. I also recommend you check that one out. But this one has this album has better production value. Seems to have a running theme through it, and definitely have a lot more progressive elements to the style, etc. So yeah, definitely check this one out if you're into really heavy, like ear raping, droning music with that impending doom sound and just overall heaviness, and you like down tempoed metal music. So definitely give this album a listen if you're into that kind of stuff. Then the second album I recommend you guys check out, my second album of the week, is the Witch Hunter Robin soundtrack. Witch Hunter Robin is definitely not as popular as what it used to be, and the majority of people who watch it today generally find the show boring, but I'm one of those few people who really enjoyed the show. Um, Now, the soundtrack is composed by Taku Iwasaki. I can't talk today. The soundtrack is composed by Taku Iwasaki, most of you will know him for his work on the Gurren Lagann soundtrack. Um, and he's generally known for his mashup style of music, like mixing um, things like hip hop with other more Eastern uh, styles of music to it, to give it its own flair, whatever. So he's generally known for doing that. Excuse me. But this is definitely one of his more underrated works because this soundtrack is definitely not his usual mashup hybrid stuff. This is a very ambient and atmospheric soundtrack, and like very dark atmospheric music, and it really fits obviously the dark tone of Witch Hunter Robin, and it's definitely one of his most underrated works because when people talk about Taka Iwasaki, this is definitely not one of the albums that he was worked on. This is definitely one that doesn't come up a lot. So if you're into atmospheric music and you enjoyed the soundtrack for Ergo Proxy, I highly recommend you check these soundtracks out. And if you are a metalhead or if you just enjoy rock music in general, I cannot stress this enough. Check out the opening theme that's on these soundtracks, but also the single that was released to obviously accompany these soundtracks as well. Check out the opening theme, which is Shell by Bana, and check out both versions, the original mix and the uh, the instrumental version. If you are really into guitar driven rock music, it is one of the most underrated rock songs of all time, and I definitely feel it needs a lot more appreciation than what it gets. It's so if you're into that whole Jimi Hendrix style of guitar work and songwriting, etc., then definitely check it out. I cannot recommend the song enough. Then the next album for this week is the original Berserk soundtrack, Berserk 1997. It's composed by Susumu Hirasawa, who has worked on number of amazing soundtracks, mainly for Satoshi Kon's films. But Berserk is definitely where I feel his range shines because um, this soundtrack is literally just goes to show um, just how diverse he is. That he isn't his music isn't just this this um, somewhat bouncy electronic new age stuff. It's really showcases that he here with Berserk with any time he works with Berserk, but on this one in particular, since he did the whole soundtrack as opposed to contributing one or two songs, this really goes to show his more classical side, and with amazing tracks like the theme for Guts, Forces, um, Beelit, and whole Earth. There are a whole bunch of fantastic stellar standout tracks out there, and if you really enjoy electronic based music and new age artists like Vangelis, Enya, and all that those kinds of artists, then I highly recommend you check this soundtrack out. And it's again like with the previous soundtrack I mentioned, the Witch Hunter Robin one. This one is very atmospheric, incredibly atmospheric, and it really um, enhances the show if you've watched the show before. But if you've never watched the show before, I recommend you watch the original Berserk and then afterwards listen to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is absolutely fantastic, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's just really hard to describe Hirasawa's music other than it's very psychedelic. It's very out there, but he definitely throws in a lot of classical music elements, and this is definitely where he showcases it and where it really shines in comparison to the work he did on um, um, Satoshi Kon's films like Millennium Actress and Paprika. So yeah, definitely give us a listen, and yeah. um, Shit, excuse me. I'm coughing a lot today. Um, the next album I want to recommend is the soundtrack for Netflix's Castlevania. It's composed by Trevor Morris, and I know a lot of people out there who have played the Castlevania games will all tell me, oh, but the music on that sucked in comparison to the games. Listen, okay, I've never played the Castlevania games. That might sound like blasphemy to a lot of you, but the thing is this: while I may enjoy video games, never grew up with a console or a PC. I did not. I was not able to really game the way I do until like high school. I was I when I was a kid, I literally grew up on comic books, and drawing. I literally did not have a console or my own PC or anything of that sort. And obviously I'm not old enough, to be from the Super Nintendo era. So forgive me if I haven't played every classic game that is out there. All right, but anyway, but I have always been into music, and I can tell you right now that this soundtrack is fantastic. Trevor Morris has worked on numerous TV shows before. He's composed music for The Tudors, which is a very good series. I highly recommend you watch that. The TV version of Dracula, which was, I believe, came out when I was in my final year of high school. It was not that long ago, 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and there's several other projects. But I can tell you this soundtrack is absolutely fantastic. It's a mix between at times it's got electronic elements, but not much. It's very minimalistic, and it's very, again, like the theme with these soundtracks that I'm going for now is atmospheric soundtracks. This is very atmospheric, very ambient. Um, Definitely captures the feel, the aesthetic, and the essence of Castlevania. It's very gothic sounding, got a horror-esque vibe to it, a very like dark beauty vibe to it. I absolutely love it. The choral parts are fantastic. Like the Gregorian chant elements, I fucking love that. The string instrument parts are fantastic. The whole arrangement, Trevor Morris is fucking fantastic. I highly recommend you check out his other works as well. But in terms of the albums of this week, this is the one that stands out. And when I watched Castlevania, the soundtrack really enhanced the experience with watching the show. It's absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend that you check this soundtrack out. So it only releases officially in August, but you can stream it and several other individual tracks on YouTube. So definitely give it a listen, and be sure to purchase the actual soundtrack when it comes out. The next recommendation is Misery Sermon by Slaughter to Prevail. Slaughter to Prevail are a deathcore band from Russia. All their songs are in Russian with the odd, English song here and there, and the odd English phrases or verses thrown in here and there. But for the most part, their songs are all in Russian. Um, the band is fronted by Alex Terrible. He has a YouTube channel where he does amazing vocal covers of other metal songs, like he's covered Slipknot, Rammstein, Meshuggah, Disfiguring the Goddess, Heaven Shall Burn. He has covered a lot of really good bands, Job for a Cowboy, and he is just an incredible vocalist. I've never heard anyone with who can do harsh vocals like he can. Granted, he may not have the best range when it comes to being able to swap between lows and highs, but his lows definitely add to the music, and the band itself, their style of deathcore, it's one would think it would be very generic sounding within the deathcore genre, but Alex Terrible has such um, a wide variety of influences when it comes to writing the songs for the band that not every song sounds the same, and it's just pure raw, makes you want to punch stuff in the face power. And again, I cannot stress enough how good Alex is as a vocalist. So if you want to hear him covering pre-existing metal songs, then check his channel out, Alex Terrible, and definitely check this album out. This is the by far this is their first full length record, but this and they did have an EP that came out before, which is also fantastic. But they really improved here. The production's better on this. The songwriting is better, and Alex adds a bit more. He tries a few more new things with his vocal technique on this album. So definitely check it out if you just want pure, unadulterated, just unfiltered, raw, brutal deathcore. Definitely check it out. Now the next album that you guys should definitely check out is The Great Tribulation by Oceano. Oceano, for me, are one of those very, very atmospheric and eerie sounding deathcore bands. And Adam Warren he's definitely my favorite vocalist within the entire deathcore genre. Um, this album, most of the tracks are very short, so it's not a long album. It's most of the tracks are very short, like about 2 minutes, 3 minutes in length, with the odd 4 minutes on here and there. But it's it's mostly a short album. But this is the first time Oceano attempted to do a running theme, a somewhat semi-concept album, if you will, and it works really well. The songwriting for this band has definitely improved since their early days, since their debut album, which was Depths. The songwriting by these guys has really improved. They really made a comeback with their previous record, Ascendance, which is my favorite record of theirs. But in terms of what they've released this year, this new album of theirs is absolutely fantastic. It really captures that haunting, eerie element. It's very atmospheric while delivering the brutality. Um, the lyricism is just generally about, like, extraterrestrial stuff, supernatural stuff, whatever. Um, all the kind of stuff that Adam is very interested in, kind of follows and stuff. But yeah, it's a fantastic album. Um, it's a, I would say if you're somebody who's expecting, um, like this grand, I don't know, fucking prog metal elements from it, don't. It's deathcore, but what makes this different is, again, this is very atmospheric stuff, and what I think is starting to separate Oceano from the other deathcore bands is how they like to incorporate a lot of gent elements now as well. So if you're a fan of gent bands like Periphery and stuff, you will definitely find some really cool gent elements in here. So yeah, it's a fantastic album. I cannot recommend it enough. The next album you guys should check out is EOD, A Tale of Dark Legacy by the post black metal band, The Great Old Ones. Now, this is a band whose entire discography is purely 100% dedicated to the works of H.P. Lovecraft and his Cthulhu mythos. Um, it's again, this is pretty much a running motif so far with this list of albums. It's This is very atmospheric, very haunting, very eerie, and it really captures the essence of Lovecraft's stories. This is their latest album. You can stream it and listen to, or you can stream all their stuff on Bandcamp. They have a Bandcamp. Um, but this latest album, it's absolutely fantastic. The songs are quite long. There aren't many songs on the album. I think there's like about 5, 6, something like that. But the songs are very long. The songs are like 10, 13 minutes in length, and very progressive as well. And yeah, as I said before, they're post black metal band, but they aren't heavy per se, but their songwriting, but black metal's not meant to be, super high production, whatever, so I found it to be an incredible listen. There's so much going on in it. You really lose yourself in it, and I can guarantee you now, if you are reading one of Lovecraft's short stories while listening to this music, you will definitely, find yourself lost in it, and just, really having it add to the mood of the stories, etc. Because this band actually manages to perfectly capture the cosmic horror aesthetic of Lovecraft's stories. So if you're a fan of H.P. Lovecraft and you've been looking and hunting high and low for some new Lovecraft-inspired music, check these guys out. They are absolutely fantastic. The next one is another Lovecraft themed album by another Lovecraft themed band. And this one, the band is called Temple of Demigod, and the album is called The Great Old One. So don't confuse it with the band I just mentioned just now. Temple of Demigod is a solo project. If I remember correctly, it's a one-man band. And this is his debut album. It's a full-length album, and it is symphonic black metal. So if you're into Dimmu Borgir, you'll definitely enjoy this. Again, this one also captures the essence of Lovecraft's stories, but on a more grandiose orchestral scale, and less of a very ambient, haunting, atmospheric way. Like this is atmospheric in the sense on a grand orchestral scale. It really ups the ante. And as I said before, it's symphonic black metal. It's definitely much better produced than the stuff by the previous band. But again, like I said, it's very much Dimmu Borgir inspired in terms of sound. Just the only exception being that obviously minus the full orchestra. Obviously, it relies on a lot of obviously computer generated synths and keyboard synths and stuff, but it is really fantastic. Some of the songs are fairly long, so but you do get the odd short one from time to time. Again, all the songs are based on Lovecraft's short stories. They never stray off into anything else. And it's very progressive as well. A lot of prog elements to it, and the vocals are absolutely fantastic. So definitely check this one out. So that's 2 Lovecraft recommendations. Definitely check these 2 groups out. They are excellent, fantastic stuff. And yeah, if you're into some really dark shit, you'll definitely dig it. We're almost at the end of the list. The second last album I want to recommend to you guys came out last year, is Slow Death by Carnifex. Excuse me. Yeah, this is the album that really got me into Carnifex. I actually only picked this album up a few months ago, started listening to it, and while a lot of Carnifex fans seem to prefer the record that came out prior to this, Die Without Hope, over this one and a lot of their other material. This one I feel is the start of Carnifex really starting to find their sound, so to speak. This is definitely their most, their in terms of sound, it is definitely their most atmospheric and their darkest record. It's very much inspired more by black metal than their previous ones were, and the keyboard synths of amazing. Songs like "Drown Me in Blood," "Slow Death," and 6 Feet Closer to Hell and Necrotoxic. All these songs really stand out. I mean, obviously all the songs are great, but those are the songs that I found to stand out for me in particular. I listen to this album literally on a near daily basis now, from start to finish. Never gets boring. I love I just love how this band is really stands out from the crowd when it comes to deathcore. They seem to lean far more towards death metal and blackened death metal than the deathcore side, because even though they are a deathcore band and they do incorporate breakdowns, they only use breakdowns when necessary, and if the song or a song requires it to have one, they don't do it all the time. They definitely use a lot of guitar solos, which is fantastic, and they've definitely come a long way since their early days. So this is the album I feel that will form their definitive sound. That's if they want to go for a definitive sound. Because so far this band has literally evolved from being what people used to accuse them of being. They've evolved from being a Suicide Silence clone from their debut album all the way to now. And they're definitely one of the most standout out acts in the scene. And one thing that critics like to praise them for a lot is the fact that they seem to appeal not just to deathcore fans, but fans of death metal and fans of black metal. And if you even read a whole bunch of reviews on the Metal Archives and stuff, you'll see a lot of people who are into black and death metal really praising um, these guys a lot. Yeah, definitely check this album out if you haven't heard of Carnifex before. And if you're into, very dark, morbid sounding deathcore, very deathcore that doesn't sound, you know, like all the others, something that at least stands out and is trying to push the genre in a new direction without leaving the deathcore sound behind. I definitely recommend this album. And now we get to the final recommendation. This is an album that I just cannot put down and cannot stop listening to, and I just find to be so freaking excuse me. It's one that I find to just be one hell of a ride, and every time it's over, I want to get back on and play it again. Um, this album is called Vibrant, and it's by the band Dreamshade. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Dreamshade, you're probably saying to me, probably thinking to yourselves, like, oh, their older stuff was better when they had a heavier production value, and they were more about the harsh vocals and the singing and stuff like that. And yes, I do find their older material to be fantastic. But this is the album that got me into them. And the reason why I love this album so much is just the fact that the sound that they decided to go for on this album really captures a lot of the more a lot of the elements from all the more uplifting and upbeat genres of metal that I enjoy. I mean, this band is just crazy with their guitar work. Obviously, the music's not technical, but in the way they can come up with these crazy guitar solos and riffs and mix them together to make these, these very upbeat and emotional and just energetic um, vibe to them. It's mind boggling. I mean, like let's take for example the second track on this album, "Where My Heart Belongs." Like that shit should be a fucking anime opening, because I mean that song in particular just seems to capture this album. To me sounds like a blend of One OK Rock and Rookies' Punked meets In Flames Soilwork, Linkin Park, and Devin Townsend project, in terms of that somewhat soft and uplifting atmosphere to it. It's like it's just an incredible album. I mean, there are two vocalists in this band. The main vocalist is obviously, he's fantastic, but the secondary vocalist who does a good portion of the growling, and can actually pull off really deep growls if you listen to their older material. Um, this band is just fantastic, and they are super, super underrated. They're from Switzerland, but their songs are in English. Um, and it's just, it's one hell of a ride, this album. And when it's over, you will find yourself wanting to listen to more of it. And this is an album that, if you are a newcomer to metal, like especially if you're an anime fan and you're very familiar with J-rock, if you enjoy the kind of guitar work that you find in a lot of J-rock music, like as I said, bands like One OK Rock, Rookies is Punked, Old Codex, and all those bands that are pretty much gaining popularity now within the anime community. If you are an anime fan, but you've never really listened to metal music before, or you're looking to get into metal music, or even if metal music's not your thing, but you do like J-rock, definitely check this out. I'm not saying this album is J-rock, but it has so many elements of it. Like, I mean, again, the prime example, the song I like to use as a prime example is the second track, "Where My Heart Belongs." But even other songs like Dreamers Don't Sleep, and various others really capture this element. And another band that they seem to have a very similar vibe to, just minus the gent and the somewhat rapping elements, is what's that band? Issues. They've got like a twinge of that there. These guys are a mixed bag. It's kind of hard to pin a single genre on them. Like, some people will say they are modern melodic death metal. Some people will say they are melodic metal core. Some will call them alternative metal or something like that. But I don't think any label can really describe these guys, because well, you could label their earlier work as melodic metalcore or melodic death metal, modern melodic death metal. Um, it's just really hard to label exactly what these guys are. And I highly recommend this album to each and every single one of you out there who is an anime fan, loves J-rock, and is maybe looking to get into metal. And if you're a fan, and for those of you out there who are metalheads and have never heard of these guys before, if you're into bands like Soilwork, um, In Flames, and I'm talking In Flames across the board, old school material and new material. It's not a question of which era specifically. We're talking whichever one you're a fan of, whichever era of In Flames you're a fan of. If you like smaller bands like Dreamscape, for example, things like that. If you're into modern melodic metal, you'll find that there. If you like Linkin Park, Chester Bennington, like slight touch with the clean vocals, you'll dig it. And yeah, it's just incredible. I cannot recommend this album enough to anyone. this band is extremely, extremely underrated. So definitely give them a listen. And that's all my albums for the week. If any of you out there have any albums in particular that you found very noteworthy and whatnot, then leave them in the comments below. I'll check them out. I'm always game for some new music, and yeah, and if you do decide to check any of these albums out, guys, then let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. Or whatever, and on my Reddit, guys, I have a subreddit now. I'll leave that in the description box below. You can go subscribe to it. And just, yeah, guys. Thank you for tuning into this. I will try to upload here daily. And with regards to the main channel, stuff is coming. It's just I'm new to doing this kind of content. I'm still trying to learn this software and edit audio to make it sound better and stuff like that. I'm very new to it. It's going to take me a while before I learn all the shortcuts and everything like that, or get faster at it. It's going to take a while, but stuff is coming to the main channel. Ruby stuff will be returning soon, especially since Volume 5 is very close. So, yeah. That's about it, guys. Don't forget to give this video a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out my Patreon as well. If you want to keep the channel going, and if you want me to check out an anime or an album. And yeah, guys, thank you very much. So take care, and until next time, have a kick-ass day.